Taylor Swift is making news because there was a foiled terror plot in Vienna, Austria, which forced authorities to cancel her Eras tour performances there. Law enforcement officials just announced a third arrest of an Iraqi citizen who was allegedly part of the terror plot. According to Barracuda Music, the concert promoter, Swift was scheduled to play 3 shows in Vienna, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but all have been canceled. It's a bust for businesses and a blow to fans and raises a lot of questions about national security. Their production company said tickets will be automatically refunded. A crowd of fans gathered in a square in Vienna Thursday and broke out in song, singing Swift's hits as their dreams of seeing her play live were dashed. 3 suspects have been taken into custody in connection with the foiled plot, 2 of whom are Austrian citizens and the other is an Iraqi citizen. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift endorse Kamala Harris? The megastar has yet to make a public endorsement, but fans think an Instagram post from 2 days ago on Swift's account contained a silhouette eerily similar to Kamala Harris as a telltale sign. As many are left speculating, several reports are debunking this, saying that the image isn't meant to be Harris, but rather is a backup dancer. Interesting.
Sure.
I don't think Taylor Swift does anything by accident at this point. It does look eerily like Kamala Harris, and I've seen some of her past posts from concerts, and she doesn't typically allow just one solo backup dancer silhouette in the back. So I obviously, it wouldn't be surprising to anybody for her to either indirectly or directly endorse Kamala Harris. She has endorsed Democratic candidates in the past. She's obviously not a conservative or a Republican, so probably not big news, although there are probably a lot of young Swifties out there who would follow her lead if she did endorse. But I think the bigger story here is obviously this attempted terror attack. Eerily similar, I think, to the Manchester bombing of Ariana Grande's concert. These suspected terrorists, 3 of whom were apparently actually involved in the security team for the concerts. They wanted to drive explosives into the venue and then had knives and other weapons to attack the concert goers. Obviously a terrifying situation, and a lot of gratitude that this was caught before it could be carried out.
Yeah, the U.S. intelligence alerted authorities there, and of course the authorities were able to stop this, and it's very sad, obviously, for so many different Swifties out there, who many of whom come from the United States, because the tickets are just so much cheaper to even fly there, stay in a different city, be tourists there. It's very sad, especially because a lot of them are younger. It's a big trip, it's a big event. With that being said, I think this is horrifying. I mean, one of the members of this group, group of 3, wanted to plow into the crowd on the outside and then also attack from the inside. But what's being reported is that in one of the Austrian citizen, the native Austrian, his home, he had machetes. Let me go through everything. He had machetes, knives, explosives, steroids, 21,000 euros in counterfeit euros, fabricated bombs. He had no ticket to the conference. He had a police siren system so that he would be able to drive in unstopped. Where were his parents? How do you not know, if you're living in your parents' home, that your child is creating bombs and has this much material in their house? This is incredibly alarming, and it's a throwback to about a decade ago when ISIS was carrying out more attacks, especially in Western countries. Thank God that it was stopped, thwarted, so we didn't have another tragedy. But Taylor Swift this is a political act, but also Taylor Swift in the post that she made, just to keep it a little bit more light for a second. She is incredibly powerful, and she can move so many young people who may not be as activated to go to the polls or haven't been in the past. She, of course, encouraged young people to register to vote without even endorsing someone last cycle. And so hopefully, she'll come out and she will make an endorsement. But if not, just ask people to vote. I think that's enough right there to make a difference.
Sure. This is obviously a very concerning indication that ISIS is not defeated. In fact, they're probably just splintered at this point in various cells around both Europe and the Middle East. They're particularly prominent now in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan, but have inspired radicalism among people throughout Europe. And it appears that's how these individuals came together, was that they had pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. One of the Austrian natives, his parents are, I believe, refugees. And unfortunately, we've seen how sometimes just statistically second-generation immigrants are more likely to be radicalized with terror groups for whatever reason that may be. And it appears that that might be what has happened here in combination with this Iraqi citizen who also swore allegiance to the Islamic State. These homegrown terrorists, as we describe them, have seemingly become more prominent and pose a great risk to the free world.
I agree. It's another reason why we have to be more on top of what's happening in social media. They were radicalized on social media. They were watching ISIS videos, recruitment videos, and of course they prey on young boys in particular.
Gosh. Yeah, it's really terrifying to think that, you could just go to a concert, try to exercise your freedom to
have fun,
do something fun. Right. Maybe you go with your family, you go with your friends. And I know some people actually won't even go to the movies anymore because they're concerned about potential attacks there. And people will sometimes change their behavior because of this. I don't want to politicize this segment too much because obviously we're just grateful that this didn't happen. But I do think that this kind of underscores some of the threat that we've been facing through our own southern border. We have seen 99 suspected terrorists released into the United States. I mean, it's not, oh, come on, though. This is a fact. There were 8 terrorists with suspected ties to ISIS who were caught within the interior of the United States.
And we have absolutely, ISIS and they will find a way however they can, okay? These were homegrown terrorists. They didn't go over the border. This was an Austrian-born citizen of Northern Macedonian descent, and that's not necessarily a refugee. Northern Macedonia isn't a place where war is taking place right now. That was the guy who had all of his ammunition in his parents' basement. That was the one who wanted to crash through the concert. I mean, if you're going to cherry pick and make it it is a political statement what you're making right now. This is about U.S. intelligence was able to share their intelligence, as they did with Russia, with the attack that occurred in Russia just a few months ago, and Russia decided not to take the United States' warning about the attack that was going to take place. I mean, this is our intelligence being strong, and thank goodness we're sharing information with other countries, even adversaries, foreign adversaries. For us to be able to defeat, quote unquote, terrorism and to stop these events from happening, we have to be in communication with each other, and we have to work with each other. The U.S. border is the U.S. border. The Canadian border has had the same issues.
That's true.
All borders have these issues.
But that is not.
But terrorism is not solely an issue of borders. I mean,
no, it's
as
not,
you said,
but
this
it's
Northern Macedonian second generation, he was homegrown. I mean, this can happen anywhere. We have domestic terrorism in this country.
I'm not disagreeing with you that obviously not all terrorists come across the border and create cells within a country. But I do think that if we have a potential way to stop them from coming to the United States, then that method should be exercised.
We catch them at the border. We
haven't been catching them at the border. In fact,
we did because we found out about them and stopped them.
After they had already been here for years. After they'd already been here for years. And there's also a report that the Department of Homeland Security had released a report that there were 99 terrorists, suspected terrorists, who were stopped at the southern border, processed, and then released into the United States. So I do think we have to ask questions about why our processing is not stopping these individuals from getting into our country. I think that's a legitimate question when we're seeing the rise of ISIS around the world.
And I think that we should be taking on these tech companies to prevent this radicalization from happening. I mean, there are accounts that are on YouTube right now that are radicalizing boys all over the world. We should be talking about that too, taking on big tech.
Sure.
We should be talking about getting guns out of the hands of young people in this country, because terrorism happens every day with school shootings and shootings across this country, especially when those guns aren't registered and with background checks. I mean, there are so many ways that we could combat terrorism and what we define as terrorism. But about this instance in particular, this is a concern because these boys are radicalized and they're taking on a concert of young women. I don't know what they're standing for and what ISIS wants them to do, but it's, deeply disconcerting. And, Taylor Swift concert goers, any concert goers should be able to go out there and have fun without risking, their own lives.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody should be able to do that. It's a shame that this was even attempted, and thank God that they stopped it before it could happen.
Yep.
That's going to do it for us this week on Rising. It was great to be back with you at the desk today, Naomi. Absolutely. All right. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks. We'll see you next week.